And the Feast of Pentecost really celebrated two things. It celebrated the ingathering of the harvest. And as Christians, we can easily connect the importance of bringing in the harvest. And then the second thing it celebrated was the giving of the law. Now, if we take the picture now, you have Passover. God delivers Israel from Egypt. And they're kind of like an infant or a baby. You know, they're a new nation, but they don't have a home yet. They haven't come into the promised land. But then you have the Feast of Pentecost, which celebrates the giving of the law at Sinai, and now they have a constitution. And this is such an interesting perspective because they don't yet have a land. Think of the weight of this. A people that does not have a homeland already has a constitution. You would never dream of something like that, would you? You think that you have a nation and then you bring in a constitution or you can change your form of government. But when do you give a constitution or a covenant, however you want to call it, when do you give a constitution when you don't yet have a land? I mean, that's a curiosity, isn't it? But these curiosities, these puzzles, are absolutely important for us today to think about, because God has given us his word to give us wisdom to understand how to cause this world to reflect heaven rather than hell. He didn't put them into the land and say, now we're establishing the government. As a matter of fact, when I study the rabbis, they make a distinction that there's an element to the covenant that gives people freedom even in the forms of government. But there are elements that are non-negotiable, like the moral law, how we treat one another, how we interact with one another, that we uphold justice, that we do what is right, that we have kindness and mercy and grace towards one another. These are the non-negotiables. But you see, even when Israel becomes a nation, once they've entered the promised land, they go from the judges to the kings. The form of government changes, but the covenant given at Sinai is flexible for all. It's an interesting picture. But the imagery that reason I'm giving this is that the law is given at Sinai, and it takes 40 years to enculturate the people before they can go into the promised land. Because God had to take a people that were used to bondage and slavery and degradation and grow them up to be able to handle the responsibilities of freedom, to create a world with rule of law, a moral and just society. And the point is, it doesn't happen through political structures and external laws. That's why I think that imagery is so interesting. They're given the covenant before they're given the land, because they can't manifest a heavenly government until they've grown up as a people. You can never create a better world from the top down. It has to go from the bottom up, people's hearts and lives being changed. Interesting picture, right? But that's the dream, is a world that reflects heaven rather than hell. A people coming into the promised land. Eventually the temple being built.